I'll be honest with you. I feel like I'm one of the few people in the world that believe that if anyone is Satoshi, it's Craig Wright, because I haven't seen
Mhm.
anyone actually be able to have a conversation with him where they don't drown immediately. And they can use marketing and volume, but I haven't seen one person really be able to explain why the limit, what was, what it was, and the Taylor
I
series and
think
all of those mechanical things.
for me, the biggest evidence that Craig Wright is Satoshi is just how many things that he broke to the Bitcoin universe that they didn't realize actually came from him.
Mm.
So the first time he showed up at a Bitcoin meeting uh, as Craig Wright was in 2014. He went to a Melbourne Bitcoin meetup,
Mhm.
and he starts explaining tokenization on Bitcoin and the management of a DAC, which more typically are called DAOs today,
Okay.
but is a decentralized autonomous corporation or association. And he explained, like, well, you can tokenize shares, you can issue tokens, and those tokens can be voting rights. And with those voting rights, you can push out, all these different things that issue tokens that do all these, So he basically explains the entire use case of the entire Ethereum blockchain in like a 10-minute video of somebody recording him. And everybody's like, man, who the hell are you? Like, where did you come up with all this stuff? Like, you can't do tokens on Bitcoin. And then he's like, well, no, you can't right now, but you used to be able to. And then it's funny because the interviewer is like, well, how long have you been involved in Bitcoin? And he just kind of, well, since the beginning, don't worry about it. He's very aloof about it, but like
Yeah.
clearly doesn't want to be, doesn't want to have that conversation. But
Right.
he continues. He keeps talking about, like, oh no, global payments and this and that, and here's why zero conf transactions work, and here's how you can build a terabyte block and all these different things. I'm like, people are like, this is bonkers. And then between 2014 and 15, he started going to more of these sort of Bitcoin meetups. And there's a few of them recorded. And he starts talking about the stack. He starts talking about what you
Yes.
can do in Bitcoin
Yes.
script. So he's like, well, so if you loop, if you allow, in the op return, you can create a transaction that creates an outer loop that allows you to basically do general computation, or as people call it, Turing complete computing. He starts to explain why Bitcoin is a Turing complete system. And Nick Szabo, who's a famous cypherpunk, is sitting there and he's like, I don't actually think that's true. I think you're wrong. And Craig's like, well, how would you know, Nick? Like, have you done anything with it? Like, nobody, literally, at that point, no person had attempted to use the stack for anything that could do like anything like Conway's Game of Life, or any of the things that show that a network is capable of general computation, or that a computer is. And so Craig is going on and on about this stuff. And after that meetup, and still even now, people tell me, I get people that argued with me this week that Bitcoin was never Turing complete. To which I tell them, like, we've built Uniswap style systems that have state, and they can do stateful transactions. They can do all these different things. Like, you can create automated market makers and all this stuff that requires it to be a Turing complete system. And they're like, yeah, but it doesn't technically fit the definition. So, like, they're looking at something in reality and saying that doesn't work because it doesn't fit my theory.
I think
And
I see this phenomenon across a lot of spaces where people have never been more outspoken about things that they technically can't know is true. And it's
right,
a weird phenomenon I've come across in the last few years where people are very certain about that which they couldn't actually physically know to be true or false.
sure. Plain and simple, they wrote Craig off because he's politically inconvenient. They had built a narrative around Satoshi being dead and Bitcoin being a public project. And Craig showed up and was like, I'm a big blocker and I'm going to disrupt the entire internet and every fintech company, and VC is unnecessary, and MasterCard and Visa and everybody are going to be side chains of Bitcoin when I'm done with it. And so he basically pissed off 10 or
Yeah.
15 trillion dollars worth of capital.
Essentially, it sounds like you have Craig Wright on one side and you have everyone else on the other. And so
In
far,
many
everyone
ways, that
else
is the
can
truth.